Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me? Guys hear me? So I'm gonna have to go radio silent because, yeah. Guys hear me?
Yes, Gwen, we could hear you.
I'm gonna make you host. Is that okay, Peter?
I'm just testing, so I'll be off. Felipe will be running everything, so no need to.
Okay. I'm gonna make you host.
Commission, we are beginning the meeting. We will be conducting tonight's meeting in person as well as in virtual settings using Zoom. Members of the public may view and listen to the meeting tonight on Wave Channel 18 and online through the city's YouTube channel. If you would like to participate in live public comment via the Zoom platform, please refer to the agenda for instructions. Chair Lyons will begin the meeting momentarily.
It is now 6 o'clock. I'll call to order the October 19, 2022 City of Lincoln Regular Planning Commission meeting. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Cross,
Present.
Commissioner Gilbert, Commissioner Hutchinson,
Here.
Commissioner Johnson,
Here.
Commissioner McKinney,
Here.
Vice Chair Manning,
Here.
Chair Lyons.
Here. Item 3 on the agenda is our Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner McKinney will lead us tonight.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 4 is agenda modifications. Do we have anyone in the commission or the staff that would like to modify the agenda this evening? Seeing none, we will go to item 5, citizens addressing the commission. Citizens may address the planning commission on any item that is on the agenda when that item is considered. Citizens wishing to speak may request to speak by raising your hand when requested to do so. This is an opportunity to speak now on non-agenda items. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Secretary, do we have any hands raised online or any speaker cards or anyone in the chambers who wishes to speak?
I have not received any comment cards. There are no hands raised in Zoom. We did receive one emailed comment in opposition to the Deer Crossing project, which was forwarded to planning commissioners prior to the meeting and will be included in the meeting minutes. And in the room,
Is there anyone in the room who wishes to speak? Seeing none?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'd like to suggest that we announce to the people in the audience that if they wish to speak to any agenda item, that they have a table over there with forms they can fill out.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Commissioner Gilbert. If you do wish to speak on an agenda item, filling out a speaker card is appreciated as it helps smooth the process, makes it a little more efficient. So if you weren't aware of that, please check that out. All right, so that brings us to item 6, disclosure of ex parte communication. I'll start on this end, Commissioner Johnson.
Thanks. I have a couple, Tony Fragy for item 8D, just communications through email regarding the project. And then Eric Curlin from the community regarding item 8C.
Okay, Commissioner Cross?
Yes, I had a meeting with Tony Fragy regarding item 8D, the waterfront project, yesterday.
Commissioner Manning?
I had no ex parte communication.
Commissioner Gilbert?
I exchanged emails with Tony. We did not meet in person.
Commissioner Hutchinson?
Yes, I met with Tony and actually went out to the site, and I wanted to thank him very much for his courtesy. He walked me through the site project, which really, really helped.
Thank you. Commissioner McKinney?
I have none to report.
And I also met with Tony Frazy on the waterfront project. All right, that brings us to the consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda are considered routine business and will be acted by one motion. There happens to be only one item. Does anyone wish to remove that from the consent agenda for discussion? Being none, do I hear a motion to approve?
Could we ask the public?
Oh, okay. Is there
Please.
anyone on the public wish to pull the consent agenda item? Seeing none?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll move adoption.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing
Will
none?
abstain,
Oh,
since
thank you.
I was not present at last month's meeting.
All right, item 8, public hearings. Item 8A is Magnolia Village tentative subdivision map time extension. Please have a staff report, please. Your mic, yeah. Thank you.
Start that again. Good evening, Planning Commissioners. My name is Efren Sanchez, Senior Planner with the Community Development Department. The project we have before you is a 2-year time extension for the approved Magnolia Village tentative subdivision map and condominium plan. The project will ultimately produce 32 condominiums within 8 separate buildings and corresponding site improvements. The Magnolia Village tentative subdivision map was originally approved by City Council under Resolution 2017-076 on April 11, 2017. On February 12, 2019, the City Council authorized the project's first discretionary time extension, which established a map expiration date of April 11, 2021. On September 28, 2020, the California Legislature extended the expiration of qualifying housing entitlements in California by 18 months. As a result, the Magnolia Village tentative subdivision map was granted an automatic 18-month extension under California Government Code Section 65914.5, therefore making the project's new expiration date of October 11, 2022. Last month, on September 22nd, 2022, the applicant team submitted this discretionary time extension for the Magnolia Village project in order to accommodate ongoing review of the improvement plans, satisfaction of the remaining conditions of approval, and recordation of the final map. Approval of this time extension will extend the expiration of the map to October 11, 2024. Therefore, staff recommends that the Planning Commission determine that the project remains exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, under Section 15332, Class 32, pertaining to infill development within the urbanized area, and 2, adopt a resolution for the Planning Commission to recommend the City Council approve the 2-year time extension for the approved Magnolia Village tentative subdivision map and condominium plan. So that concludes my presentation. If the Planning Commission has any questions, I'm here to answer any questions, and also the project applicant is here as well.
Do any of my colleagues have any questions for staff before we open the public hearing?
I have a question, not for the staff. I have a question for the applicant who he indicated is here this evening. So whenever it's right, I'd like to ask my question.
Please, go right ahead.
Good evening, Tony Frazier with Frazier Design Group on behalf of the applicant. We're here to thank you for giving us this extension, but also to confirm that it may, this is just timing, but we are going with the final map as well, hopefully next month to City Council. So this is just technicality that we have to go through just to make sure that there's no gap of a couple of weeks or days. And actually the plans getting signed this week, and the construction on the project will be starting the first week in November. So unfortunately, it took so long to get here, but we're finally here. And the builder is very excited. This is kind of project that is needed in Lincoln. And so far everybody's happy because it's also multifamily, but it's unique, looks like residential, single family, but actually multifamily. So we're looking forward to seeing the construction commence next month. And I can answer any question you may have.
You have a question?
He's answered my question, which was, when did they anticipate that they move it? But I wanted, now that they've said it in a public setting,
So that's good.
the community knows that it's imminent.
Actually, we had a pre-construction meeting this week on site as well. So
Thank you, Tony.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Any other commissioners with questions before the public hearing? All right, so we'll go ahead and open the public hearing on this matter. Secretary, do we have any cards on this?
I have received no cards, Chair Lyons, and there are no hands raised on Zoom.
Okay, is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak on Magnolia Village? Somebody's hidden behind the podium. I don't see anyone. All right, we'll close the public hearing. Bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Johnson, you already expressed a desire.
Yeah, thanks. Just mostly a procedural question with this for our city attorney, Christine. So just in the preparation, reviewing, looks like in 2017, the resolution with city council, Councilmember Joyner abstained from the vote on that one. But then just reviewing, notice in 2019, he voted for it. So I'm just curious if that has any repercussions in this or what the process normally is for that.
This is the type of question that I always appreciate getting ahead of time,
Oh, sorry.
as opposed to having it sprung on me here at a
Yeah,
meeting.
no, my apologies.
I don't know the specific history. I was not here for the first vote, so I don't know the reasons behind why he abstained. Circumstances may have changed between then and the vote in 2019. So I really can't give you any better answer than that, other than to say, I believe it was a 5-0 vote. So even if it had been 4-0-1, I don't think procedurally it would make a significant difference.
Okay.
Commissioner Gilbert was a councilman with, at that time, so. Can you turn your mic on, please?
How's that?
Yeah.
I served both times, and as may be known by the community, the Joyner family owns a lot of property in our community still. And when we did the first vote, Paul Joyner recused himself and left the room to our discussion and voting. When it came up the second time, I believe the piece of property that could have been affected because it was close to this project was no longer in their ownership, so they had no conflict.
Appreciate that clarification. Does that help?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I just saw that and I didn't mean to spring it on you. I just busy with life and work and family and didn't get a chance to cover that well in advance, but I appreciate that clarification. I just saw it, so just curious how that works in case anyone else had questions on that. So thanks.
Any other questions or comments from the commission? Being none, this will be resolution 2022-22 to approve a request for 2-year time extension to the approved Magnolia Village tentative subdivision map and condominium plan with a new map expiration of October 21, 2024. Is there a motion?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Hutchison,
Yes.
Commissioner Gilbert,
Yes.
Commissioner Cross,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner McKinney,
Yes.
Vice Chair Manning,
Yes.
Chair Lyons.
Yes. That brings us to item 8B. 583F Street Mixed Use Development. Staff report, please.
Mel Pavlinis, good evening, Chair Lyons and the rest of the commissioners. Mel Pavlinis, Planning Manager. We have a PowerPoint presentation. There it is. So it should be one in front of you as well. So this is a proposed mixed-use development. We're getting a lot of these lately. So there's 2 tonight and one of them is this. So item 8B is for your consideration, the 583F Street mixed-use development. So the project is located immediately across our building here, southeast of Sixth Street and F Street. It's vacant, about 1/4 acre in size. It's surrounded by existing uses, businesses, our city hall, of course, and residences towards the northeast. It's zoned commercial. It has a general plan land use designation of commercial. It's also within the downtown, Lincoln Downtown Design Plan as commercial. In particular, it's designated as Old Town Historic Area. Proposed project as shown here is a design review permit and a conditional use permit for this proposed project. The CUP in this case is per our code is for the apartments project portion of this project, which there are on the second floor. Total size is about a little bit less than 12,000 square feet on the bottom floor, and about 7 when in the second floor are the 7 units for rent apartments. It's 2-story in total, as you can tell from the picture, and there'll be 7 off-street parking spaces provided. Shown here is a site plan with the layout of the units. Primary building access will be along street frontages. There's also on the east side, the project's bordered by an alley, Ninth Alley. The vehicles for parking purposes are parked on the alley side, as shown on the trying to get the light on here, but where's the light? Got it. It's not working. Yeah. Oh,
All
sorry,
right.
starting over.
That was quick.
Okay, we're gonna get started back to where we were.
Well, we can use words to describe it. It's on the right-hand side of.
There it is.
There, oh, that's great.
There is the alley, there is the 7 stalls proposed for the site along the alley. On-site landscaping is proposed as well, and lighting. Those are all part of your project exhibits. And the project, of course, given the nature of the property, it has connections. It would connect to public utilities, sewer, water, drainage, and of course, road accesses. The designs are shown here. Also, again, a part of your exhibits. It utilizes elements of the downtown plan. Of course, utilizing materials, colors, and the scale of the building. Complies with applicable zoning standards, setbacks, floor area ratios, and coverage as well. So the project was considered by the design review board back on June 29th, and they recommended approval for your commission to consider. As analyzed in the staff report, the project conforms with the applicable general plan policies, zoning development standards, goals and policies of the Lincoln Downtown Design Plan. Also qualifies for an exemption determination under CEQA, under California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA, Section 15332, which is a section designed for infill projects. There are 72 conditions of approval that are being applied to the project to ensure that the project is built in an orderly and timely manner. That said, staff recommends the following: that the Plan Commission adopt the resolutions before you, finding that the project be deemed exempt under CEQA Section 15332, infill projects, and approval of design review and conditional use permit for 583 F Street mixed-use development. Before I close my presentation, I would like to make some changes, just some typos and clarifications. In the staff report, there's probably a few places that I'm missing here, but there's a reference to 19 parking stalls that aren't being provided. It's actually 18 stalls. I overestimated in my calculation. So, and as discussed in the staff report, they are short in the stalls, but they will comply with the standards by paying an in lieu fee. So it's still within the intent of the code as far as meeting the parking spaces. There's also a condition of approval 69. The timing for that currently is is timed to the issuance of building permit. I forget the actual condition in its text, but the timing is being changed to prior to issuance of occupancy. I'm gonna put that into the record. And condition approval number 66, which says applicant shall use a property management. And I want to add or provide on-site property management to manage the project site. So a little bit of a just kind of expanded options there in the event that the applicant has other means of providing on-site management of the property. One last thing, we did receive one comment from an adjacent property owner, concerns about, and I think it was forwarded to you this afternoon, an email regarding the protection of the trees that are on the south side of the property. We have conditions of approval that, I forget the number, I think it's 22, 23, that basically identifies that if you have any off-site trees that are not being proposed to remove, but maybe in the area of improvements, that will be protected. So that might be sufficient to address that concern by the public, but I just thought I'd bring that up to your attention. That we have conditions already that would address that. So, but.
And Mr. Plavanis, just so you know, I've also spoken with the applicant's counsel, and they have indicated that they are more than willing to retain a tree consultant, I guess, to be on site during construction to make sure that those, because they do want to preserve and maintain those trees.
Excellent.
And the applicants are here if you have any questions for them as well. And for me.
Thank you. Do any of my colleagues have questions for the staff or the applicant before the public hearing? Commissioner Johnson.
Yeah, I guess this is for Mel. I just want to explore a little bit more about the parking on the street. So I guess you're saying instead of, just to be clear, instead of your estimate of 26 spaces, it's 25?
Yes, yeah, there was some rounding when I was doing my calculation. I rechecked and rechecked. So,
Sure.
and yeah, it was 25, and then of course you subtract the 7 that you're proposing,
Maybe
you have the
18.
19 spaces deficit.
Okay. And then I'm just curious, I don't know how the whole in lieu works, you know, it's for future parking. In the meantime, if we're estimating that many spaces are needed, what the impact is around there until any future, I guess, mitigation is in place or any future parking. Do you have, is there like a timeline or plan of some kind of parking structure or additional parking spaces in that area?
It's an ongoing discussion within the city staff, because we know that there'll be projects coming forward, but at the moment I'm not aware of any plan at the moment, but we have funds that are available that you know, could be used for that purpose, either above ground parking garage of some sort, or some property that can be, you know, be developed to offset these needs for parking. But at the moment, we don't have any plan that I'm aware of.
Mhm. Okay. And when you say they could be used for that, are these funds restricted specifically for that purpose, or can they get diverted to?
But I believe they are restricted just for that parking in lieu of parking purposes.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Welcome.
Good.
Mhm.
Any other questions before?
I have a question. I would love an explanation, just if we have to determine that the project remains exempt under the, under CEQA, can you explain how it remains exempt?
I have to open up my staff report here, but there's criteria that's provided in the staff report. I don't have it in front of me, I'm sorry. But it essentially is in an area that CEQA determined to have certain population density, which this one is. I checked that off myself. Is it in an area where the habitat is degraded or non-existent? Yes, it is. I mean, there's trees along there, but we have measures to protect those trees. There's a few other criteria that you know, it has to be checked off specifically to make sure that a project can qualify to with those criteria. And I just off the top of my head, there were 4 or 5, but I cited 2 of them.
All right, thank you. I read the report. I just wanted it said in public, so that's fine.
Sure.
Thanks.
Else? Anybody on this side?
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Christine, you mentioned the trees and is it the neighbor that's willing to bring in the arborist or the property owner? The applicant will bring in the arborist. Okay. I misunderstood that and I was a little confused on how that would work. So, okay, I appreciate that and thank you for that.
I have a comment.
Yes.
I serve on the design review board, and so we went over this project in depth. And it's rather exciting. It's a little different for Lincoln, especially the idea of resident apartments on above commercial. Gives a nice opportunity in Lincoln for people to walk through the downtown. And there are some design correlations between City Hall and this project. And I just wanted to bring that back out again because it's kind of exciting to see something like this different coming into Lincoln if it's approved.
Thank you. Yes, Commissioner Gilbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that this project has one outstanding attribute that makes it work. And that is that the applicant is the same as the owner of the property and is the same as the tenant of the property, who has a track record of working with the city, happens to own the Lincoln Potters baseball team. But over the years, we have worked with him, both when he was with a major developer and since they've gone on their own to become a property owner, commercial property developers and owners. And I've asked him many, many times about this project and said, you know, I can guarantee you, because you're across the street from City Hall, it's going to be looked at very carefully by our staff, because whatever you do, they're going to have to see it every morning and every evening as they come to work and go home. And I think the staff did a good job working with the applicant. And I think it's the kind of project that we should encourage in the downtown area where we mix residential and work. And, you know, we have examples of that, like in San Francisco, where they did the Golden Gateway project, where people work and recreate and shop and live in a downtown core. And most of them do not own automobiles. They use, when they do need something, they use public transportation or Lyft or whatever it might happen to be. So I personally would like to encourage that we do as much of this as we can, because we all are starting to experience traffic problems here in Lincoln, and we're going to build an awful lot more before all is said and done. So I'm very much in favor of the project and the mixed use concept.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, I'm going to open the public hearing. And Secretary, do we have any cards on this matter?
There were no cards given to me before speaking on this item. As Mel Pavlinas had mentioned, we did receive that written public comment, and I will include it with the minutes.
Okay.
There are no hands raised online.
Okay, is there anyone in the room that wishes to speak on this item? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, bring it back to the commission. Any further questions or comments at this point? Okay, then we'll entertain, there are three resolutions. We'll start with 2022-23, determining the project to be categorically exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act under section 15332. Is there a motion?
I'll move.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Commissioner McKinney,
Yes.
Commissioner Gilbert,
Yes.
Commissioner Cross,
Yes.
Commissioner Hutchison,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Manning,
Yes. Chair
Lyons.
Yes. Resolution 2022-24, approving design review for the proposed 583 F Street mixed-use development. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gilbert,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Cross,
Yes.
Commissioner Hutchison,
Yes.
Commissioner McKinney,
Yes.
Vice Chair Manning,
Yes.
Chair Lyons.
Yes. And then resolution 2022-25 approving conditional use permit allowing construction of total of 7 residential apartment units as part of the proposed 583 F Street mixed-use development with conditions of approval. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Hutchison,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Cross,
Yes.
Commissioner Gilbert,
Yes.
Commissioner McKinney,
Yes.
Vice Chair Manning,
Yes.
Chair Lyons.
Yes. Thank you. That brings us to, oh, by the way, I'm in favor of this, like Peter indicated. It's, we haven't seen a mixed-use development project, well, as long as I've been on the commission, probably longer. And the fact that this is an infill in downtown, this is a different change from the pattern we've seen for a while, and I'm very happy to see that.
Chair Lyons, before you close, before you finish your item, I'd like to make sure that we get it on the record. I'll coordinate with Jeannie regarding those changes that I mentioned earlier. So
Yes.
just for the record, I have it all.
I should have made
memorialized.
that as part of the motions. We need to do a separate motion for that. I mean, they're clerical mostly. Okay, good. All right, item 8C, Dutch Brothers Coffee, staff report.
Good evening, Mel Pavlinas, Planning Manager. Item 8C is the Dutch Brothers Coffee proposed here along Lincoln Boulevard and Gateway Drive. Just a brief PowerPoint presentation, kind of summarizing what's already before your provided to your commission. Just a PowerPoint here. Property is located right there, Lincoln Boulevard, and of course, Gateway Boulevard is right there. It's southeast corner of that intersection. It's vacant currently. It's about 2.5 acres in size, surrounded by existing uses, public infrastructures, roads, sewer, water lines. Also general plan commercial and zoning is commercial. Also within the downtown design urban plan, of course, is the entry into the downtown plan. So as described in the staff report. It's a simple site plan showing the proposed project. It's in red. Rectangle right there. It's a design review permit, evaluating the designs of the project, the building. Also a CUP, the conditional use permit is for the drive-through component of this project. Of course, we know all about Dutch Brothers. The building itself is about 930 square feet. And there won't be any indoor seating, but there could be some outdoor seating just on the south side of the building. There are 2 drive-throughs. It's a dual drive-through lane. So given the nature of the business, access will be off of Lincoln Boulevard and Gateway Drives. There's dual drive-through lanes would serve up to 22 cars just within the actual drive-through lanes, but potentially it could serve more if it gets busy on site. So with regards to having the drive aisles that could be occupied if in the event that it gets busy, but within the drive-through lanes themselves, 22 cars can be served. There are 11 off-street parking spaces that's proposed, all on site. And on-site lighting, landscaping will be provided. Also connections to the sewer, water, road, drainage are all existing, so it's readily can connect to those services. Some elevations of the project, again, shown on your exhibits in your staff report, utilizes the same exact theme, colors, materials that's in the downtown plan. Its scale, it's pretty small given the nature of the kiosk and a Dutch coffee facility. So it also complies with the standards of, in terms of setbacks, height, and parking, of course. It was considered also by the design review board back on 31st of August, and it was recommended for approval by the board to your commission. As discussed and analyzed in the staff report, the project complies with policies in the general plan, applicable policies and standards in zoning, and also the policies and goals in the downtown plan. Also qualifies for an exemption determination under CEQA section 15303-.c. This is for new construction or small structures. There are 78 conditions of approval that's being applied to ensure the timely and orderly project implementation. Again, for staff recommends that the Plan Commission adopt the resolutions before you, finding that the project is exempt under CEQA 15303.c, and approval of the design review and conditional use permit for Dutch Brothers Coffee. We have no comments on this project thus far. The applicants are here if you have questions for them as well as staff. So thank you very much.
Okay, do any of my colleagues have questions for staff or the applicant before the public hearing?
I do.
Okay, Commissioner McKinney?
Yeah, I have a question about the stacking of vehicles, the 22 vehicles. I presume that's within the lanes there and it doesn't go outside. Is that the corporate standard for these businesses? And, those get very busy at some locations, sometimes a day. And I was a little concerned about, could that stack out onto Lincoln Boulevard? I mean, that's a long way, but was that looked at on and considered or?
Yes, so the plan itself, of course, it exceeds the standard, the required 10 spaces at 22, of course. But of course, along with the drive aisles, it can accommodate 14 more as analyzed. And we made sure staff, in working with the applicant, we added condition. On top of that, they also have a queuing plan that they will implement as part of their operation in the event that they have these events that could require could trigger more parking than usual. So as it exists on site, the proposal meets and exceeds the anticipated our standards, basic standards. However, we also added a condition of approval that, and that's, I forget the actual number of that condition of approval, but it could provide some on the southern part, on the middle part of the property, it could be graded and maybe some kind of ground that could accommodate some maybe a lane or two of stacking. Those all have been either conditioned or either to the queuing management plan, it will be addressed. But as it stands, the project is proposing to have dual lanes and stacking to accommodate what the standard is. But we have measures to the conditions that we've applied so that it ensures that in the event that the worst case scenario, more stacking is needed, we have those conditions as such.
So what triggers that? Is it, what triggers that provision? Is it we see it and we are concerned that the stacking is unsafe? And then that's just an audit. Who makes that decision?
There's I think the condition, I forget the exact text of it, but it triggers a site verification by city staff that would go out there to make sure that they're operating within their conditions as applied. Of course, a lot of this is self-imposed, that the proprietor would have to ensure that they're managing accordingly. But as designed, they have enough, but we have measures to address in the event that they don't have enough. But I guess that if there's conditions that in the condition itself, I believe it calls out city staff could be called upon to make sure that there's no worst case scenario that happens.
We do have staff member SP Mann raising his hand online. If he may speak, is it okay?
Thank you, Jeannie. Dear respected council and staff. So I just want to supplement with what Mel is saying on that. We have, if I'm going to point you towards conditional approvals 5, 6, and 7 in your agenda packets. So we have multiple conditions that would actually require them to make changes to the site management plan if it doesn't work. Most importantly, is number 7, basically when they come in with the improvement plans, we're requiring them to do additional all-weather paving on the south side of the property, just south of the entrance from Lincoln Boulevard. So that would give us extra stacking just in case if we see anyone sees it, queuing on Lincoln, we can basically utilize that additional space for stacking. So that's the immediate response. And that's the solution that you're looking for, I believe. 5 and 6, those are additional checks and balances in place. We can essentially stop their, they have seasonal programs sometimes that would attract a lot more clients than normal when they give away stuff. So those we have a trigger that we can, or anybody from code enforcement or the PD or fire or community development can actually ask them to immediately implement their queue management plan, in which it basically will basically be closing off the driveway off of Lincoln. And then most of the cars would have to then loop around Gateway and enter through that. And also utilize the additional parking that we will have south side the driveway. So thank you.
And then the left in off of Lincoln Boulevard, is that a left in only? It's not right off the main road, or is it the main lane and right in, or is there a turn lane?
Both the entrances are right in, right out.
Okay.
There would be a solid yellow striping of along Lincoln. So vehicles traveling southbound at that point cannot make a left into the side.
But if you're traveling in, is there a turn pocket into the site, or is it just right off the lane?
No, there's no turn pocket. Essentially, there's no room for a deacceleration lane at that point because we also have a NEV lane along that frontage. So no, it's just part of an extended right turn pocket, right come through lane, northbound.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments, Commissioner Johnson?
Yes, thank you. Thanks for putting up the image too. Yeah, thanks. So just wanted to talk through the traffic a little bit more. Like Commissioner McKinney was asking, just want to confirm. So it's going to be exiting, it's going to be right turn only on Lincoln Boulevard and then right turn only on Gateway Drive.
That's correct. Yes.
And then since that's the case, I'm just curious, since we're anticipating high flow traffic through here, if someone's going northbound, coming from the south on Lincoln Boulevard, I guess coming up on that image, coming in here, and then they want to go back that way they came, how do they turn around? Are they going to have to go through other businesses in the area to turn around? If it's right turn only on both those spots, what's the expectation for those people to get back on Lincoln Boulevard going southbound? Because I'm just curious if that's going to impact any of the other businesses in the area or what that looks like.
I'll go. So if you're getting coffee and you're heading out off of Gateway, heading back south, then you basically have no option but to get out, make a right, and then go to the roundabout near the post office, if you remember. And that's the only place, or they can turn left into one of the streets and then loop around the block and come back and head south on Lincoln Boulevard.
Okay, was there any study done on that? How that might impact?
True, yes, we did.
Areas?
Yeah, we did a site traffic analysis by our consultant, traffic consultant expert. And
excuse me.
Sure.
Excuse me, staff member Lindy, you have your hand raised. Did you want to say something as well?
It's okay. SP started answering the question. The most efficient way to exit the site and head southbound on Lincoln Boulevard is to loop through that roundabout. That's the most efficient way to go back on westbound on Gateway and southbound on Lincoln Boulevard.
Okay. All right. Thanks for answering that one. Another question I had was, I know driving by that property now, it's kind of low, lying by the, Auburn Ravines right there, or the creek. Is there, I assume, an analysis for like floodplains? Does this sit within a flood zone? Is there something, I assume they've taken into account that, like, what does that look like?
I'll defer to SP on the floodplain issue, but it is part of the south part of the property is encumbered by a floodplain area. But SP
Yeah.
can expand on that further.
Thank you, Mel. Yeah, so we do have floodplain that runs along the creek, along the south side of the property, along Auburn Ravine, but we don't have any, the current project or the CEP under review, we do not have anything within the floodplain. So the entire site is outside the existing floodplain at that point.
Okay, thanks. And then while that image is up on the screen too, just one more question. Looking at the traffic impact study, it almost looks like kind of focused on the exit. So after they receive their order, on the screen that's up right now, it looks like they can just kind of go through and turn right on the Lincoln Boulevard. In the traffic study, there's a diagram that almost looked like that's closed off and they'd have to go back kind of through where the traffic's coming into those double lanes to wait to order. So I just want to clarify, is it going to be what's on the screen, that it's open and they can come straight through after they receive their order and turn right on a Lincoln Boulevard? Or are they going to have to loop back up, if that's closed off, kind of loop back up to where the cars are coming in?
No, this is the latter. The one you see on the screen is the latest design. So the traffic studies are usually done based on preliminary understanding of the applicant's design. So based on the review, the staff's review, the traffic study, we modified the site plan, and this is the current site plan. Essentially, you don't want traffic to come out of the coffee, drive-through and make a left. So they have to make right out. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Those are all my questions for now.
Thank you. Any other questions from the commission?
Yeah.
Manning? You good?
Yeah, can you just, I know there's been a lot of questions around the traffic, and for the record, I love the project. I think it's going to be great for Lincoln. People love Dutch Brothers. It's a great commercial addition to our city. But I am sensitive to the concerns about what a Dutch Brothers can do, especially on Lincoln Boulevard, right? And I think I share that concern. I'm looking at the plan. It looks like it's pretty well thought out from what I see, but can you bring up the diagram of that diagram there would work, and just walk us through, just walk us through how the cars are going to enter and where they're going to come out. Because
Can you bring up the traffic flow?
I'm looking at it
navigation
now. Yeah, that's the one I'm looking
Yeah,
at.
that has the
And-
red and the orange cars
Yeah,
on
I
it.
would love to just spend a minute on that for us up here and walk us through how that's going to work. And then I'll probably have some follow-up questions on that. And I think the best one to have up there is what Chair Lyons brought up, is the in the traffic, on the traffic document analysis, there's an overview.
Mel, do you have the traffic management plan? I'm not sure if it's a part of the agenda or not.
The traffic queuing
Yeah,
plan?
yeah, it's part of
Yeah,
the.
just one
It's called
page.
traffic queuing management plan. is the
There you
name.
go. That's the best one.
Yep, that's the one I'm wanting. Thank you, because I was going to ask for that too.
Yep.
All right, SP, did you want to talk about this? Oh, I'm sorry.
Tony, did you have a
Yeah, well,
question, or?
so on this one right here, cars are entering from Gateway Drive, correct?
Yes.
Are we not going to allow cars to enter from Lincoln Drive?
Let me clear. Lindy, do you want to go or should I? I don't want to.
So, yeah, Lindy Childers, engineering manager. So there are a number of things that this exhibit shows. The first thing is that we recognize that there will be a number of vehicles that plan to enter off of Lincoln Boulevard. So the idea that they have presented here is that the next to that, that letter A with the circle around it, you see the orange dots. If it's right in the middle of where they would normally enter into the drive-through, yeah, right in the middle of a circle. People would normally enter the Lincoln Boulevard, turn right in here, and they would turn left into where that A is, and they would enter the queue. Should the queue expand out into that main drive aisle from Lincoln Boulevard, that's when they would put the cones up in the center that are right next to that A. And what that would cause is that would cause people to not be able to turn left into there because they were already starting to queue up and appearing to lead to a condition that would cause queuing on Lincoln Boulevard, which is what needs to be avoided. So these cones would prevent people to turn left into the drive-through aisle, which would cause them to continue through and exit out Gateway. Okay, and what the applicant has indicated is that there will be times when this would occur and people will learn that when the conditions are such that that queue extends into that drive aisle, then the Dutch Brothers staff will put those cones up, which will cause people to be entering off of Gateway. And he said that people will learn that they can't get into the line from the Lincoln Boulevard entry and that they're going to need to come in from Gateway, and they could loop around the block if they wanted to, or if they wanted to avoid that, they could just go up to the intersection of Gateway, turn right in and into the entry off of Gateway. And he's indicated that people who use Dutch Brothers get very accustomed to these traffic patterns at the high traffic times of day, and they will come in off of Gateway. Because if you have to loop out again and come back in, then next time you'll probably come in the Gateway entrance if it's that time of day when there tends to be a long queue. But the intent here is to not allow cars to stop trying to get into that entry in the drive aisle and therefore queue up on Lincoln Boulevard.
Right. Okay.
That's the point.
That seems like a suitable plan right there. My next question is going to be, and I'm looking at the traffic analysis. It's hard for me to understand the exiting of these cars, and I know Eric asked a little bit about that. But this is great. We can see how they enter. Is there anything, or can you illustrate with a pointer how they're going to exit?
So they will turn right out of the exit, Mel. They will come out of there and they will turn right. And they see the dark right-hand arrow onto Lincoln Boulevard. They will turn right there too.
So the
There will
one,
be two rights.
the one that I'm looking at, gosh. Am I crazy? That doesn't let you turn right, right? Makes you turn left. I'm looking at, on the staff report, the image that it makes you turn left. And that's in the.
So was this in the traffic impact?
I think that's the one I was asking about.
Yeah, that's one. Which one? Is there a way to direct them to that?
Yeah, they said that was a preliminary one.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you'll come out and it's going to force you to turn right.
That's
Okay.
correct.
All right. Now, my next question is, in that preliminary design, there's an awesome design across the street or across that entrance right there with additional parking and an additional drive-through lane. Why wouldn't we have them build that? What's the idea of build this? And then that's like plan B? Is this like a test run?
So
What's the idea behind that? I just want to get the philosophy and idea of our planning department on that.
Are
I
you
can,
referring
I
to
can
the-
go.
Go ahead, SP.
Hey, this is SP again, Senior Engineer, Development Services. So yes, Commissioner, so that was the preliminary layout upon which we, after review, we took those out. They had to push that exit aisle off of Gateway further east to create more stacking. And because they had to, if you look at are you guys looking at the queue management plan?
Yes.
Okay, so if you see the purple lines and they come around that, yeah, there you go. And there is a median in between at the U-turn. So that was much smaller before. If you look at the original design, that was a smaller median, but we had to create this wider radii to make sure that there's enough room for the cars to make U-turn. So when they had to push that median out, the radii larger, we had to get rid of the parking lot along the east property line. So so they ended up adding the ones on the inside, but we had to get rid of the property line just to make it more efficient for the movement of the cars. And
That's what I'm talking, right?
yeah, does it make
I'm
sense?
talking about, no. What page is that?
Are you talking about the area that's south of this main entry off of Lincoln Boulevard?
Yes, it's page 20 on,
Can you maybe Mel, if you can put that page up so that maybe we can.
I think what they're talking about is the original.
Auburn Ravine Traffic Analysis Report, page 20.
Yeah, so it originally showed
That'd
another.
be awesome if you could put that up.
Yeah, no, I know what what you're saying, Commissioner, and that's what I was trying to explain.
Yeah,
but,
it'd be good for all of us to see it.
Is this something I can share?
It's
from
also
here?
on page 15, page 20 or page 15.
Of the traffic analysis?
Yes.
Um,
So there's one right
There you
there, right?
So
So that's
that-
what I was talking about, how I didn't understand how you would turn right onto Lincoln Boulevard, but it looks like that's
That's
an
the
old,
or-
that's an old design, right? So I'm
Yeah,
okay with that. But that parking lot to the south side, I mean, that's an awesome design, right? What's the philosophy of we're going to start with this and then that's plan B? I just want to understand why we have that there, why it's in the parking analysis report and why we're not building that.
Originally, it was submitted.
So, so council member, this was the original design that was reviewed by the traffic engineer, and we subsequently, they had a lot of comments, and including staff. We had a lot of concerns and issues about the cars coming out of the drive aisle after getting the coffee, not being able to make a right out. That's one, and then cars trying to get out the way it's laid out now through the middle of the main drive aisle, they'll have to make a U-turn to go right if they want to go northbound on Lincoln Boulevard. So we had a lot of conflicts with all these movements, and the cars coming in from Gateway, they would actually have to make a really sharp U-turn back into the line. And so as a result of all those comments, they had to change the layout to the current
So-
layout.
And I appreciate the layout and all the changes that you did. That deal with the northern part around the kiosk. But I'm trying to understand that area south of the kiosk. Why aren't, I mean, there's a lane you could pull in, that would accommodate a ton of cars from stacking. Why did that disappear?
So let me clarify that. The area to the south of the main drive aisle from Lincoln Boulevard is the area that we are talking about providing an extended, exactly what you just described, extending the queue length south of that driveway. And we have a condition on this project that will require the applicant to provide an all-weather surface with their improvement plans. They will design an all-weather surface that allows the extension of that drive aisle into that area south of the main driveway off of Lincoln Boulevard, exactly where you're describing. And
Right.
should they need to use that, what I would call as a queue annex area, the Dutch Brothers people would be able to to cone the drive aisle in a way that would cause them to work into that all-weather surface to extend the drive aisle. Should their customer queuing become too long for the first area. And the reason we don't have the other business there is because we need to see how this Dutch Brothers project is going to operate for a while before it, there'll be a lot of activity initially, and then it'll probably reach a standard. People will get into a routine, and those traffic patterns will become routine. And once that occurs, they'll be able to know exactly when they need to move into that annex area. And if it becomes unneeded, then they wouldn't have to use it.
Okay.
So it's available, and it will be utilized if necessary. And then if the patterns become such that it's not necessarily going to be needed long-term, then they can propose an alternative project for the south
I
area.
appreciate that. I'm glad we finally got to where I was heading with that. I'm sorry that I may have been a little confusing on that. So then one follow-up question to that. So that area south that we're talking about, that we finally figured out what we were talking about, that is we're not requiring them to put any weatherproofing on that area immediately. That's a project in the future should they need to do it.
It will, correction, it will occur with the improvement plans for the Dutch Brothers site. So it's an all-weather queuing annex area. So that if on the fly, if it's necessary, they can use it.
Okay,
They
great.
want to get into a position where they have to build something later.
I really appreciate you clarifying that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, just to clarify, condition number 7 is what Lindy's referring to on your agenda. That's the requirement that she spoke about, and they're not going to be paving the entire south side. It's just going to be a drive aisle extra space for them cars to commute.
And an all-weather
Good enough.
surface that isn't necessarily pavement. It could be something.
Gravel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, I think the question was answered,
I
correct?
think so, yes.
But the applicant is here and has said he's available. Would you like to speak to? Yes, sir. If he has information relative to this question, I think I think I would like to give him the opportunity to address it.
I'd like to speak.
I'm not cutting you off. I'm not done with the commission.
Before they go, I think we should end up with any commission.
Okay.
If you want me to wait, I'll wait.
He might as well address yours at the same time. Okay, go for it. It can really go in any order we want to do it in.
I studied this project very carefully and looked at all of the work that the staff had put in with the applicant. And it's not the same, but I'm going to compare it to a project we recently did in Lincoln called In-N-Out. And when In-N-Out was proposed, no one dreamt that they would be as successful with their drive-through business. And certainly because of COVID, drive-through has become much more desirable, particularly to older people. And anytime I go there, I was in In-N-Out today, half the people in there came from Lincoln Hills. And they were in their cars mostly. There was a few inside. They had a problem because they were getting the queue line right across the street, the driveway, and it was causing tremendous problems in that shopping center. So as people can be that are successful in business, they became creative. They took a couple employees and they queue in the parking lot of the shopping center. And the people wait until the car has gone further on the line, and then they start to cross the street when it's safe. I looked at this plan very carefully, and I think the staff did an outstanding job in not so much the plan, but as you read the details of the options, the alternative ways of queuing traffic are outstanding. And I only hope we have to go to those because that means there'll be a very, very successful Dutch Brothers. And we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But I think having looked at hundreds of these in my career, in some locations a lot tougher than this, I want to commend the staff on doing a superb job. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, is it okay with the commission if I allow the applicant to speak? All right, please come up and give your perspective on this discussion. We appreciate the business in Lincoln. It's just a matter of how do we make sure it works right. There's a mic on.
One of the owners of the project. My folks, Jean Marie Rogers here, also owners of the project. We're developing it for Dutch Brothers as a tenant. Just an answer on the piece. We're looking at another tenant for the south piece. We don't have one currently. That's why we would like to develop them both at the same time. We're holding on that until we have a tenant in place. Just for feedback, you know, most of the Dutch Brothers you'll see are about half the size of the property of this, and most have single drive-throughs. So they've accommodated. The other thing they've done is that they're very popular. My kids, you know, live in Yuba City. They would drive to Live Oak to go do it. It was just such a popular thing. But as they've gotten more popular, they're filling in. The success from one is resulting in them adding new locations, which is diminishing some of the line capacity. But having the technology out there to order in the line, the walking area between the two drive-throughs, is really accelerates their speed. You know, they're fully motivated to get people through quickly and to keep customers happy. Nobody wants to wait in a long line. And frankly, they saw this and they're like, well, first of all, those are our employees in those parking places. We would queue another 6 cars right there behind that in that real peak period for a matter of, you know, half an hour or so if it was a peak. So he goes, there are like 40 something cars you could do there. And it's always feels safer. We are not crazy about the idea of being required to pave an area to the south or to gravel that piece. We'll try to accommodate that. But, you know, there's a very substantial amount of queuing put in place. We expanded the property another, I think it was another 60 feet from when we originally did to add links to those. Then we added the double drive-throughs. So we made a lot of accommodations to really make sure that it's good. I only had one objection in the conditions. If you go through Lincoln, on the east side of the road, each of the roads coming up there have double lines with driveways to the properties to the south. So there's a double line, but as I sit and watched many, many times and today as well, if there's nobody there, people turn left into the businesses. I'm not in favor of having the people going to the post office or into the business behind them being prohibited from turning left if there's nobody there in the traffic. I think every other road as you go through in downtown Lincoln does not have a triangular pork chop. They have a double line and the driveway's open. My request would be to be same as we are with every other, you know, business in that area. I don't think it's necessarily a lot of the time to have them go down to the roundabout. I think you're going to find your residents are going to question why they're doing that because there's very little traffic compared to most roads because that road's dead ends in the end. It doesn't continue on as all the other roads do. There's not all that much traffic off of that back of the road. So the ability to turn left there or left out, I think would end up accelerating the traffic movement off the property. So that's just my thoughts. That's a condition that you know, if it becomes a problem, there's a multitude of areas they have to have us make changes in the future if there's a problem. If we have to go back in later and put a pork chop, I think that's something we would agree to. But to start off the project, I think leaving it as a regular driveway as all the other roads in Lincoln are, I think would be our request.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions, William?
Any more questions for the applicant?
I just wanted to say also that we've been working on this project for a very, very long time. As I think Dan approved our project on there the first time 22 years ago when we put something forward. But I just want to say that the staff has been wonderful to work with. We've had some struggles in the past, but the staff has been very receptive in keeping projects moving. Tough on certain things, but still keeping projects moving. And Christine and Sean and Lindy and Rommel, it's been great to work with. So you guys always hear when there's bad news, but I want you to hear when there's good news, and staff has been great to work with. So I'll say thank you for that.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Sure, go right ahead.
Sorry, yeah, while you're up there. So I just want to clarify, the exit you're talking about, is it on Lincoln Boulevard or Gateway?
Gateway.
Okay.
Yeah. See, what I was saying is like, if you come down through, you drive out tonight, every street as you go by there, there'll be double lines. But, and if you watch, there's nobody there, people are turning left into the businesses regularly. If they're not, if there's cars there, they go around and they keep moving. But as you said, people make adoptions and they're driving accordingly. And I think that's a fair location there. We did a project with Starbucks in Yuba City. We designed a similar traffic management plan. And companies are realizing with the drive-throughs that they need to have, one, they have staff out in the parking lot, which they used to not have. Now they're taking orders, they're delivering coffees, they're there with cones. They haven't had to use it at all yet, but they have a plan in place to where, hey, if it's an issue, cones come out, because they realize otherwise they're in jeopardy. So they're on top of it. They want to make sure that they're not causing, traffic problems. So.
Yeah, no, thanks for clarifying that. I'm actually in favor, that too, on going on a gateway. I don't know, I just foresee some issues with forcing everyone to go down the roundabout or cutting weird ways or driving over stuff just to go left. I think people are gonna try to do that anyways, and it might just cause issues if it's prohibited.
Yeah, my personal thought is on the gateway side, left in and out would be okay with me. I would like the staff to address whether that would comply with traffic code because of the distance and the left turn lane there for Lincoln Boulevard. There may be some other legal constraints that I'd like to hear about.
All right, thank you guys.
So if you'd like, I'm Lindy Childers, I can respond to that question. On Gateway Boulevard, there is a left turn pocket that extends to the east property line of this Dutch Brothers site. And having people turn left once they're in a pocket, before you get to the opening of the pocket itself, which is the intersection, creates a risk of rear end accidents. Because that's not an allowed movement. When you have a turn pocket, you need to go into the turn pocket and stand in the turn pocket until the opening of the turn pocket. And the opening of the turn pocket is at the intersection of Lincoln Boulevard. So the established length of that pocket is all the way to the east boundary of this project. So allowing a left into it or a left out of it isn't a movement that we can have into or out of that pocket. And on Lincoln Boulevard, it's also very close to the intersection of Lincoln Boulevard. So it creates a potential conflict with people coming into Gateway from either a right turn from Lincoln Boulevard onto Gateway or a left turn from Lincoln Boulevard southbound onto Gateway. If people were to turn left there, it's so close to the intersection of Lincoln Boulevard that isn't a long enough length in order to have that driveway allow all the movements.
Thank you. That's kind of what I guessed might be the case, but I wanted to hear it. So I appreciate that. Does that help? Okay. Any further questions before we go to public hearing? All right. No, we haven't had a public hearing yet. That was all comments and questions for the staff and the applicant. So we'll open the public hearing. Secretary, do we have any cards on this?
I have not received any cards. There is a hand raised on Zoom. CA, I will allow you to speak.
Hi, I had a question about the driveway exit and pulling into Dutch Brothers as well. Is the property that is the empty lot on the corner of Ferrari Ranch and Lincoln Boulevard, is that going to be developed and maybe have an access to Dutch Brothers from that end, or is that just too far away? I feel like with the traffic on Lincoln Boulevard, it's just a nightmare, no matter what time of day. And I love Dutch Brothers myself, but having the traffic at all times of the day from a Dutch Brothers just seems like a giant nightmare for anybody trying to get through downtown Lincoln. So that's my only question and concern.
All right, thank you very much. Is there anyone else online?
No one else is online.
Anyone in the room that would like to speak on this? Yes, city manager raised his hand.
Good evening. This is a little unusual. I don't do this very often, but there was something that wasn't mentioned this evening, and I think is really important information for the commission and the community to think about. I'm Sean Scully, by the way, city manager. We spent an insane amount of time creating contingency upon contingency because it's a tight site. It's in an area that's adjacent to the creek, which you really can't back up. But one of the things that I think we need to acknowledge about Dutch Brothers as a company is that what most people think about is Dutch Brothers as of 5 years ago, where they were very limited. The corporate strategy at that time was they would maybe have one location in a county, essentially. And so, of course, they were inundated. And what we're seeing, and I'm noticing in a lot of other communities, is you're starting to see them pop up in each and every community. And so I think it's reasonable. They're probably not like a Starbucks where you have 6 or 10 of them in a town, but it wouldn't be surprising to me if over time you start to see that spread out a little bit more because it's not as scarce as it once was. And so that's just one little component that we talked a little bit about internally. And I just thought I'd mention it. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, anyone else in the audience wish to speak? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Staff can comment, but I believe the answer to the question of entrance from Ferrari Ranch, I think the Auburn Ravine is in the way, and I think that makes that impossible. Yeah, so bringing it back to the commission, any further questions or comments?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I think you better, I understood your answer, but I'd like you to articulate it a little clearer because the person who was on, who spoke to us a moment ago, obviously she needs to understand your answer, I think, a little clearer.
Okay.
I don't think there was nothing wrong with
I
it.
see Christine volunteering.
I'm happy to volunteer, Chair. So the development that is proposed entitled at Ferrari Ranch and Lincoln Boulevard is on the south side of the Auburn Ravine. So that is floodplain, it is preserve area. There will never be connectivity between that parcel and the parcel that we're talking about at this point, other than getting onto Lincoln Boulevard and traversing north.
And even getting Lincoln Boulevard widened for the bridge is going to be a big deal.
It is a challenge.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Always want to make sure we're clear with the public. So appreciate that. Yes, Commissioner Johnson.
Yeah, just real quick, just follow up. You just mentioned, I was going to say the same thing. There are plans to widen the bridge, eventually going into there to help with traffic flow and patterns. And then as far as, doing a left-hand turn there, I appreciate the city manager explaining a little bit kind of how it, works. And I guess point out the fact, if it is right-hand only now, but we do find there's a lot less traffic than anticipated. I assume we could go back and allow left-hand turns. There's no like permanent barriers going in place, right? It's just going to be signage. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. If there's nothing stopping them, people will likely do things that we don't actually sign it for them.
Yeah. Right.
It's hard to stop things like that. But
Yeah.
I do want to also point out, we've had this issue with some other conditional use permits. Conditional use permit is truly conditional. If they fail to meet the conditions, which means keeping the traffic under control and so forth, we can take an action to revoke the conditional use permit. It's happened before. Not often it happens, but it has happened. But I know that the applicant wants to keep their business open and wants to keep their customers happy. So I expect them to handle it very, very well.
Okay, that's all I had. Thanks.
You want to comment?
Yeah, I will. I'll comment. I think it's awesome bringing a Dutch Brothers into Lincoln. I think Lincoln will welcome Dutch Brothers with open arms. I can tell you as a father, I don't quite understand it, but at like midnight once a month or whatever, my daughter would just beg me to load up the car with her friends and go to Dutch Brothers to get a sticker, because I guess they release a new sticker every month. And we would wait in the line, and I would always see the line and think this is ridiculous, but they were amazing at how quick we would get through the line. But what I want to say about this plan is that the other Dutch Brothers I went to, they were not very well planned like this one, and didn't have enough space. The fact that we have Gateway Boulevard right there and that we're utilizing that, I think that really opens up a great opportunity for this business to be successful, rather than to have so much on Lincoln Boulevard. The other lot to the south gives us some plan Bs if it becomes a problem. The applicant did mention that they haven't got a tenant. I would love to see a Chick-fil-A in this town, but if you put a Dutch Brothers right next to a Chick-fil-A, that should be a conditional use, that we can't have that there, because I don't think the drive-throughs can handle both of them. But other than that, this will be a fun project to see done. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other commissioner comments, questions? All right, seeing none, I will go to the resolutions. There are three. Start with resolution 2022-26, determining the project to be categorically exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act under section C, new construction or conversion of small structures. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gilbert,
Yes.
Commissioner Hutchison,
Yes.
Commissioner Cross,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner McKinney,
Yes.
Vice Chair Manning,
Yes.
and Chair Lyons.
Yes. And then resolution 2022-27, approving the design review for the proposed Dutch Brothers Coffee.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
I'm sorry, the train interrupted the, thank you. And then Gilbert,
I
second.
second it.
Thank you. Sorry. Okay. Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Gilbert,
Yes.
Commissioner Cross,
Yes.
Commissioner Hutchison,
Yes.
Commissioner McKinney,
Yes.
Vice Chair Manning,
Yes.
and Chair Lyons.
Yes. And resolution 2022-28, approving a conditional use permit for the construction of a drive-through facility associated with the proposed Dutch Brothers Coffee, subject to conditions of approval.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
It was Commissioner McKinney.
Commissioner McKinney made the motion, Johnson seconded.
Commissioner McKinney,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Cross,
Yes.
Commissioner Gilbert,
Yes.
Commissioner Hutchison,
Yes. Hutchinson, yes.
Vice Chair Manning,
Yes.
and Chair Lyons.
Yes. Welcome to Lincoln. Thank you. I appreciate all the hard work that went into this. I know that there's been talk of Dutch Brothers for years, and it'll be, I'm not a coffee drinker, so you won't see me there, but I know a lot of people who have been telling me they've been looking forward to it, so. Okay, that brings us to item 8D, waterfront. We have a staff report.
Good evening, Mel Pavlinas, Planning Manager. The waterfront project is another mixed-use development. Before you, we have a very short PowerPoint slide. I do want to mention, so quick, just housekeeping. I have a colleague that I've been working with on this project. So her name is Adrienne Graham. She's Adrienne Graham and Associates. So she's been involved in this project for several months now. So I'm going to tag team with her on this presentation, and I'll take over the latter half of the presentation. So she'll start off with the initial slides for the project.
Thanks. And then what about everyone? Great. All right. Sorry about that. My name is Adrienne Graham, as Mel said. I'm an environmental and planning consultant, and I've been working with the city on this project now for several months. The waterfront project is located within the Village One specific plan area. It is located at the corner of Oak Tree Lane and McBean Parkway. It's about 18.8 acres in size. The Village One specific plan was adopted by the city in 2012, amended in 2013. It is an 1,832 acre specific plan. It allows for 5,639 dwelling units and up to 167,000 square feet of commercial space. At the time it was the specific plan was adopted, there was also a general development plan adopted, and a program EIR was certified. The Village One specific plan identifies plan areas that are tied to the zoning. Here you see the 3 plan areas that, so the waterfront project occupies portions of 3 of those plan areas. The red is Plan Area 14. It's zoned village mixed use. And you can see the hatched area is the waterfront project occupying about 10.8 acres of Plan Area 14. Plan Area 65 is zoned village parks and recreation. It is intended for a 22-acre regional park. And the waterfront project has about 4.9 acres of that plan area, and including a portion of the lake. The park and recreation improvements in the waterfront project would eventually be incorporated into that regional park. There's also Plan Area 46, which is open space. The waterfront project will be composed of 4 buildings. It'll encompass 271 multifamily units, as well as 50,000 square feet of commercial space, retail, restaurant, and office. And also the public park and recreation uses, which will be around the lake, and they're shown in green here, and the yellow is open space. Within the waterfront project, Building A will be located at the corner, and essentially at the entrance to the project, be a 2-story building with commercial uses in it. The other 3 buildings, B, C, and D, will wrap around the lake at the back of the project. They will be 4-story buildings, and all 3 will have residential uses, and in addition to that, Building C will have commercial space, including restaurant and office. There are 777 parking spaces that are provided, both above and underground. And there, in addition to the public amenities around the lake, there will be private amenities for the apartment complexes, made up of recreation room, fitness building, playground area, and outdoor pool and spa. No.
Thank you, Adrian. So next several slides, I'll chat about the designs. There's a GDP that was adopted for the project. So the GDP sets forth various standards, including the design and the theme architecturally within the development of the Village One. And of course, shown here, you have some elevation shots, perspective shots that shows the various aspects of the design regarding building elevations, landscaping, and to a certain extent, some signs as well. So as you can tell from the corner spot, corner area right there, there's the waterfront announcement of via the corner sign. So the design is consistent with the design standard within the Village One. It uses a contemporary style of building materials consisting of stucco, dark metals, and stone, using a soft earth tone design as a theme. It uses also some stacked stone accents complementing the surrounding landscaping. There's in the perimeter of the project, there will be security fencing, also decorative fencing, and as well as a decorative block wall along select perimeter of the project. The waterfront design, a project was also considered by the design review board back in May of this year. It considered aspects such as the design theme, exterior enhancements, the way it integrates the lake features with the overall site design, and the accommodation of amenities on site. Following that discussion with the board, the board recommended approval to your commission. The waterfront project did have an addendum prepared by Adrian, an addendum to the certified environmental impact report that was adopted and certified for the Village One plan. It addressed specific environmental effects of the waterfront project and concluded that the waterfront project would not result in any new or more severe environmental impacts as previously analyzed in the certified EAR. As such, it was determined that the project is in conformance with the previously certified environmental impact report for the plan. Therefore, no further environmental review is required per SEQA guidelines 15182 and 15168. And there's an attachment to your reports provided by staff as part of your packet. Conditions of approval have also been applied. There are 89 conditions of approval included as one of your exhibits to your packet. This includes mitigation measures that were identified in certified EAR. And that's also attached as a separate document in your packet. And these conditions are subject to verification by city staff as they proceed forward with their construction of the site. As analyzed in the staff report, the project, the waterfront complies with CEQA guidelines, complies with the standards of the general development plan for the Village One plan, conforms to the policies and goals of the Village One specific plan, and is consistent with the City of Lincoln general plan, as analyzed and discussed in the staff report. Lastly, the staff recommends the following: that the Plan Commission adopt a resolution before you, finding that no further environmental review is required under section 15182 of CEQA guidelines, and approval of the design review specific development plan for the waterfront project. We did receive a comment, I believe it was forwarded to your commission this afternoon. We'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have as a follow-up. And Adrian and I will, as well as Lindy or SP online, can provide some answers to any questions you may have. The applicant is here, Tony Frazier. So if you have any questions for them and his clients, they are here to respond to them. Thank you.
Okay. Shall we start? Would the applicant like to speak? I see you about to jump up, Tony. Why don't you come up and give your introduction at least, and then we can pepper you with questions if there are any.
Good evening, commissioners. Again, Tony Frazier with Frazier Design Group. We're here on behalf of Waterfront Project, and we have the owners with the Holly Hills Group, Daniel Bailey and his wife Marlene here to speak on behalf of the project. We have the rest of the team. We have Patrick with Nadell, and we have other members of the team. We told them to stay home if they don't need to speak to make it faster for us. I'd like to start by thanking the staff, especially, this project been 4 years, not counting Village One, just this project. And, working with Sean recently and Mel and Adrian, obviously she had a history on Village One, and SB and Lindy. So finally we're here. So we are very, very happy. I appreciate you looking at this project. It's really a good night tonight because, now I can bring my daughter to Lincoln for Dutchboro. And another mixed use project. And this is really a unique project. I mean, I worked a lot in Lincoln. Many of you know the history from Lincoln Hills to Lincoln Crossing to so. This is a unique project. The more we worked with it, the more exciting it becomes because, I came from a seminar that Sean was on today regarding plaster and growth. And really this project kind of meets today's, sad situation we're in with this economy. But because of multi-use, mixed-use project, it meets today where we are, and also provide opportunity for people to work and live. It's a vision in Village One that the city put forward a long time ago. And typically, if you really think about it, multifamily or these kind of project trail, development, they stay years. But here we are, Village One starting, we have Delmore, Centennial North, and a few moving forward. And to have this project moving forward is very exciting. And people may visualize it with Oak Tree Lane as is. You have to visualize it with Oak Tree Lane, 4 lanes, the intersection improved. So we're not going to be building this project on what you see today. So this is assumed signals there, full widening improvement. It's going to be statement for Lincoln, even Roseville doesn't have this project. So that's something to be proud of. We are utilizing as well the lake feature, which is part of the regional park. That's something really good for Lincoln. It's a unique in Village One that working with Sean, he has a great interest in this regional park. He's starting to motivate forces to work with it, and we respect that plan. And I think this is a starting vision of the regional park where we allow people to use the lake in edge condition. So it's going to grow. Daniel, his companies, they own the 2 parcels to the east as well. So the plan is going to continue. So this is not the first time or last time you hear him or see us here. So we're excited to be moving forward. We're hoping next year to be in construction. So your vote will allow us to bring something to Lincoln that is, again, unique. It's exciting. You have mixed use. You have people working, people living, but also enjoying the lake, the restaurant back into the lake. It's, I was in Granite Bay not long ago. They have a quarry pond, and you go there and you're looking, where is the lake? I want to be in a restaurant, and you can't. You have to see. So this opportunity here is different. You are able to enjoy it, and if we're able to do what we show as a feature on top of the roof, people will be able to enjoy it, not only seeing the lake, but they see the stairs and they see the other vision. So we're excited. I don't think I left anything here. If you have any question regarding any architectural, again, Patrick is here. He can answer them. We're excited. We're hoping to break ground next year. So thank you very much. And I don't know if Dan, if you want to say anything I missed, you're welcome to. He's the owner.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So let's, any questions from the commission before we go to a public hearing? We'll start on, Dan hasn't gone first all night, so let's let Dan go first.
I noticed during the presentation that there were 80+ conditions of approval laid out by the city staff. I just wanted to make sure, Tony, that you guys are okay with those 80+ conditions of approval and that everybody's on the same page.
Yes, we are. It's a mixture of the mitigation measures, which are required to comply with CEQA, and the conditions are standard conditions. So yeah, we are fine with those conditions. And
I was asking Tony if they were okay with it.
Oh.
They're your conditions, so I'm sure you're okay with it.
Okay, I thought you were looking at me. So.
No, I apologize. I was looking at you. I was kind of looking through you. I apologize.
Okay.
Tony, is the applicant good with the terms and conditions?
Yeah, let the record show Tony's nodding and
So
speaking,
there
even though you
won't be
can't
any,
hear
I
him.
just want to make sure so there aren't any surprises down the road. Okay, thank you very much.
All right, Commissioner Johnson.
Yeah, just want to say, this is a great project for Lincoln. I know my wife and I we enjoy the fountains, kind of being able to walk outside, go see some commercial and so forth. So this is perfect, something that I was hoping would come to Lincoln. So I'm excited for this in our area. And just some questions about the lake. I know it sounds like it's going to be future regional park kind of around the lake. Is there going to be access to the lake, or I know there's talk about a fencing. I'm just kind of curious what that looks like. If and it looked like there's kind of like a paved path going around it. Is that the plan, to have a paved path going around it for exercising, enjoying, or just kind of curious what that looks like?
So this path is part of the regional park. Vision is to really work with the city to develop a park that you can use a lake. So this trail is right on the edge of the water, and actually right by our waterfront. You can see a little darker trail. That's kind of over the water kind of bridge. We try to bring the water under it. Obviously, we still have to work with the PCCP and the new rules and all that stuff. So we're hoping that they can share with us with this vision and to allow us to utilize the lake as feature for the park, not just like Quarry Pond, you isolated. Some area of it might be like that, but the goal again is to make it part of the park on the south side, where part of the county side. They're going to be like amphitheater where you're able to be right up to the lake and vision. I don't know if you've been in Elk Grove. We did the Civic Center Lake. You know, recently we got awarded for it. The vision is to do something like that right by the lake. So hopefully the PCP will work with us to develop something. Lincoln doesn't have something like this. So
Yeah, no, thank you. That sounds great. One other question, I know there was mention about underground parking. I'm just curious where that's located, what that looks like.
Is that in the plan that you can show, Mel?
Sir. Yeah, let me go back to.
Old missiles.
This is SP again. Yeah, it's the building at the corner, right, southeast corner of the intersection of McBean and Oak Tree Lane. If you look at the cover sheet, that's the parking garage.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull it up right now. Maybe Tony can
Yeah.
walk me through it as well. It's kind of slow.
you can see this dashed line here. Dash line where there's an arrow to it. That's the limit of the underground parking, and then it goes to toward the building, the dash line. And underneath it, all the way up to the buffer with 193. That's where the parking is underneath. And you enter right from this, under this building, and you enter right from this intersection, go down into the.
Perfect. And I assume it's all free parking, or is there going to be fees?
It's a part of the apartment, but a portion of it is part of the mixed use for the businesses.
Okay. Thank you. And I know Commissioner Manning was kind of talking up here about the old missile sites. That actually crossed my mind earlier. That's not located on this piece of property, correct?
No,
Okay.
it's not, no.
Okay. All right. Those are all the questions I have. Thanks.
All right, Commissioner Manning, do you have any questions, comments?
Yeah, it looks like a gorgeous project. I hate to see our city going vertical, but, and that would be my question. Our little town's starting to get vertical, which is hard to swallow, but I guess that's the sign of the times. What is our height restriction on buildings?
Maybe Tony can help me out with that as well. It's a
4-story.
the maximum per our code, the maximum.
Yeah.
What's the GDP? We're finding that out right now. The GDP dictates the maximum height requirement, but the building itself is maximum is 4-story.
It's gonna.
That's fine. Tony, what's the max?
But
What is the
I
height
will
for the?
say this, so the GDP sets the heights,
Yep.
and we did look at, this project does fall under that height limit. Sorry.
Okay.
So the general development plan for Village One sets the
Right.
heights, and this project does fall under the height limit. I
Okay.
just don't recall if it's 55 or 40 feet.
I don't either. But if it falls under it, I will trust your
Yeah,
verification.
we looked at the design guidelines and it is, and standards, and the project's consistent with those requirements.
My only other question really isn't too specific about the plan, but the plan is part of it. Just curious, who pays to build a regional park? Where do we get the money to do that? Sean? You wanna answer that? I would love to understand that.
SP, do you want to handle that or do you want me to?
Sure. Thanks, Sean. Yeah, that's a great question. I think this is part of the Village One infrastructure finance plan that basically lays out a plan area fee. So it's going to be like a fee, like a PFE. In addition to PFE, all of the regional parks, including this one, would be funded through developer fees. So it's like an impact fee, but it's only restricted to plan area, which is Village One. So every developer that comes in for entitlements is paying a portion of that fee. It's already predetermined per EDU per acre in case of a developed park. So it's already been approved with along with the Village One specific plan. So that's the mechanism for receiving revenue, and the regional parks are being, I think, built by the city instead of the local parks. The neighborhood parks are essentially basically being developed by the developers themselves. So that's the difference between the two.
Yeah, so the only thing I'd add to that is that the Lincoln, they call them PFEs. Everywhere else, they call them impact fees. So I always get confused about that. But so the development pays for it, but and SP is correct. What you'll see in this particular instance, because we're just calling it Missile Silo Park for now because we don't have a better term for it.
Stick with that. It's awesome.
I kind of think it's cool, you know. And we're actually thinking about ways currently to integrate the current missile silos that kind of poke up about 8 or so feet out of the ground as part of the park, you know, as an educational landmark. It's sort of interesting. They were built during the Cold War. And
we all want our kids playing around old nuclear sites.
I mean, we wouldn't want them to go under. It's kind of
Right.
like, I told everybody, it kind of looks like a set from Stranger Things if you go down
Right,
there.
right.
But it's a really cool opportunity. And so what I think you'll see in this project is as Village One, this project and others develop over time, we will start to phase that park most likely from, I'm trying to get my bearings here, west to east. And the most westerly portion has a pretty significant ball field complex, soccer fields. There is a aquatic center that we're still trying to figure out whether we can afford. And it's a full regional park. It is, in terms of acreage, I think it's 43 or 44 acres. So you're talking McBean size or larger. And so it'll be a really nice addition because, you know, really right now all we have in terms of true regional parks is McBean and Foskett. So a nice addition to the portfolio.
So is the park, I mean, and this is a fair question, and I don't say it to offend anybody, but so many parks in our city are in the plans and have turned into a dream, right? There was never any money. Is this a dream or is it truly in the plans and something within reach that we're actually going to break ground and get started on it?
It's both.
It's both.
It's a dream because it's awesome.
Right.
And we also have it funded. So I think the mistake that has been made, and we've had a lot of discussions about this recently, is that the way that regional parks are built, because the city, no developer would come in and spend $50 million on a regional park before they've sold a home, right? So we kind of just end up in that position of having to develop it. But one of the things we've talked a little bit more about is figuring out a way. It's better in this sense because this area specifically is funding this park. And so provided that our market doesn't do what happened 10 years, a little more than 10 years ago, even if there's a slowdown, we're going to be able to pull off this park and all of the ones that were that are still moving forward, like Jimenez and Bella Breeze and a few others. The difference, though, in those situations was you did have that 09 through 12, phone's not ringing, no one's pulling permits. So you weren't collecting money. And the problem with that is it's very difficult for us to keep up with inflation, even if it's low, when no one's paying fees at all. Because then we're behind essentially 3 years in collections, which if you multiply that times how much more expensive it is after 3 years to build anything, you put yourself way behind. So as long as the economy doesn't come to a screeching halt, we're going to be able to build the park in a reasonable time frame. So that's my only qualifier to that. I just think that's what we notice as you look at Jimenez and a few of these other parks is there was this time period where everything stopped for a moment.
Well, it looks like an awesome project. That regional park would be amazing. And we'd love to see it happen. So
Stick with Missile Silo Park then? That's the name?
I love the name.
Okay,
Yeah, I
that's
think
cool.
we need to do something with that. It's an awesome part of our history that we need to wrap our arms around and promote it. But fantastic. I can't wait to see that whole thing done. Thank you.
Sure.
Sorry to derail that, not that
No,
that
no
had,
problem.
but I guess it does have something to do with the project.
Totally.
Yeah, so thank you.
That it?
Yeah.
Commissioner Gilbert.
Thank you. And Tony, thanks for asking your last question because it reminded me that there's another question I need to ask. So we adopted a plan in the city for 4 or 5 years ago, where any development in the city would literally have to build the parks as part of their development. And that was incorporated into our regulations. Secondly, this is the part that I think is critical. There had to be a mechanism put in place where whatever property was developed would generate income to the city to maintain parks and the other things, the other amenities that are in there. And I know I insisted that it have an inflationary factor on it because, and I remember whether it was 2.5% or 3%. God, we know this year was really bad, but historically we adopted an inflationary factor that would keep the city whole because what we talked about a little earlier, there are neighborhoods in this city where the developer or the builder wrote a check, and when the city got around to doing the parks 3 years later, the costs had gone up 30% and we couldn't do it. And then the downturn in the economy came in 08 and we got further behind, and there was this unfunded liability to those people to build them parks. And so the city's been trying to catch up in that regard with very limited funds. So I want to make sure that I understand how this project and predominantly the people who will live there, but because there's a regional park and a lot of amenities, I raised my family in a waterfront lagoon community for 30 years, and there's a lot of costs involved. They're going through their second iteration of cleaning the lake. First time when I was on the city council there, 35, 40 years ago, it cost $7 million. This time it's costing $56 million. It's a big lagoon, much, much bigger than this. So I just want us to understand that. And let's be clear about what are we going to end up with after the project is built and the people have moved in? And now what kind of obligation is there and who does it belong to? So I'd like some comments on that if I could.
Yes, the applicant, Tony?
I always ask Tony tough questions.
I want to take a minute to just clarify a couple of things, because this is relation to Village One and finance plan and parks. There were a lot of bits and pieces mentioned that they were correct, but I want to put them together. Yes, there's obligation now in new development to build the community parks because they are community parks. They're not regional parks. In Village One is the same way. Like the project to the north, Stella Morse will be building that small park. Elliott building theirs. And there's a mechanism that council approved in Village One where people that are not having any parks, they're paying a fee. The city's supposed to be gathering, keeping it in Village One to pay for somebody that's building the parks on their sites to equalize everything. So that's for the small neighborhood community parks. For the regional park, since it's a regional, it's not Village One, it's anybody. Village One went beyond, and we also included the finance plan that was approved as well, that collected money from Village One will be collected to pay for the land acquisition. And also, like this parcel with Holly Hills, they're obligated to provide those property with a lake frontage and so forth to continue making that regional park. So the fees that being paid toward the PFE or impact fees will be collected, and council did a great resolution for the first time when we did Village One, and I think Village 5 followed suit, is that certain fees going to be collected from Village One will be spent in Village One, will be toward any facilities that are public facilities under the impact fees, but they will be used, the money they're paying. So we don't expect this park to be built by the city or anybody within next 2, 3, 4 years, but we are working on, like this project, creating the first step. So the frontage will be built, that's part of the regional park, the trails, and we're building it to go back to Oak Tree Lane, et cetera. We have to extend it toward the Silo Regional Park. I love it because I've been working on that for years, and I think there's a lot of things could be done. And that will be another unique thing Lincoln has different than the airport as well. Nobody has a Silo Park. So we are going to go back toward that regional park, and we'll be working on the dam repairs and so forth. So there's a mechanism in the BFE for that. So you think about puzzle, as each parcel comes in, we're building a portion of that park until the rest of it can be built with the rest of the fees being collected from everybody. And we're going to be actually, hopefully, working with PCCP next week to start that ground work, because again, we could miss an opportunity if we don't work with them to make sure that lakes, which are the amenity in this park, and everything built around and done right. So it's going to be one development at a time with one vision. We have a plan that was approved with GEP that shows this park. Might be minor changes, but I think the vision as a whole, the city so far likes it and moving forward with it, plus or minus. All right, hopefully I answered that question.
Peter, do you feel that was answered to your satisfaction?
Well, you did say at one point that that they would collect fees and hold it, and maybe I'm misunderstanding. But what we adopted when I was on the city council was the plans for the parks, would be submitted to the city. They would be approved by the city. And at a certain point in the development, the builder developer would build the park, not the city. I'm not talking regional park.
Yeah, so they're correct. The community park
is the regional park the only park in this development?
Correct. We have a small behind it, in the back of the building. There's a small area. That's where we're building that.
Okay.
And then we're starting. Yeah, that's being built.
That's the one I'm talking.
Yeah.
You sat in our meetings
Yeah.
when we had those, and we negotiated back and forth. And that's the one I'm talking about, not a regional park.
Correct.
But
yes.
any neighborhood park had to be funded by and built by the developer to the city standards.
Mhm.
And then it would be retained by a fee that would be paid by each homeowner over the years, so that we could keep up with inflation and maintain our parks at a nice level.
Yeah.
So that was a great plan, and I just want to make sure that we're sticking to that plan.
Yes, I mean,
Okay.
that's one big thing that we're doing in Village One and new villages is that there's CFDs different than other development where these CFDs are paying for everything to be maintained.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on this side have any questions or comments? Okay. Commissioner McKinney.
you. Tony, you may need to come back up again.
Getting your exercise.
The development looks great. I always get a little concerned when I see water in an area like this. I want to understand a little bit about how this lake works. What is the water supply when it comes to storm drainage? Is that, urban flow going to go back into the lake? Because that can start to foul the lake itself and create an eyesore, and that's really what I'm concerned about is over time, how is that lake going to be maintained so that it doesn't become an eyesore? So if you could help me understand a little more about how that lake physically works.
Okay. It's in the works, but I'll give you the history and the concept of what hopefully we can accomplish. Because again, this project is building around the lake. We're respecting the design for a regional park, and we're not limiting whatever happened with the regional park and the lake. Now, as it exists right now, and that lake is part of the shed of Ingram Slough, one of the branches of Ingram Slough. So it receives water all the way actually from Bickford area. And there is tailwater that comes from PCWAs, there's raw water deliveries and so forth. So that's why this lake is kind of fluctuates. It could hold more water if the most westerly edge, which is like a dam that doesn't leak. So there's a money in the program to retrofit that and help it kind of keep more water in it. So that's something that will be done very soon. It's not going to be delayed for years. That will be the first part of that lake repairs. So the goal, as any other feature open space right now with new development, LID requirement, you're supposed to treat all the storm runoff before they hit the open space or at the edge of the open space. So any development building along that edge will be treated with LID swales, a treatment, and then go into these lakes. We'll be most likely working with city on health plan for this lake, ultimately, where we may end up having to get more raw water from PCWA just to be released as a program to keep it fresh, adding some aeration. That's why I said I need to work with PCCP to understand that this lake is different than just, we've done lakes where you just leave them, they're just, they hold water, but they're wetland kind of. This one, we're hoping to become part of the regional park where you're seeing water, not seeing algae everywhere. So it requires aeration, more fresh water, and ultimately these things, because it's really a large size body of water, if you give it enough health with aeration and enough water, it kind of builds by itself. It becomes a good ecosystem. Even right now you go, it's low. You can see some areas very clear, some area with algae. Water does marvelous things. And my understanding, I've never dove down, but this lake is not shallow, it's deeper. The deeper it is, the better, obviously. So when we fix the dam, it can hold more water. We actually took my daughter and my wife fishing there about 3 months ago. It was a little bit higher, and we were able to enjoy it with fish and so forth. So it's really a good opportunity for a lake to bring the community together if we do the homework right as we plan the park going forward.
So the design of the lake itself and understanding the ecologic issues associated with it and flows and is to come later, is to be looked at later as part of the regional park?
So the hydrology for the lake, it exists as existing conditions. So the runoff, all what we have to do to make the hydrology work correctly to make sure that the area of the release, the dam is right to hold the water. So that's step one we need to do. The first year or two max, and then the trail around it. But yes, the lake itself, we have to be, we started right now, talk to PCCP to what we can do. And this is the process of permitting through the program to make sure that what we can and cannot do. Because the first thing is that stay away 50 feet, don't touch it. We want to make sure that we are able to get closer and be able to enhance it and make it healthier.
So if the PCCP, I've got a lot of questions, I'm sorry, because I think this is a really important aspect to this project, right? That's the centerpiece for this, is the view of that lake and ensuring that that lake is going to be not turn into an eyesore. You know, that you get the proper hydrology in place. If you need makeup water from PCWA in drought periods, you know, the residents that are going to live there are going to have this expectation. And so I'm trying to piece this together a little bit to understand all this timing and how that takes place, because as fellow commissioner mentioned here, these get expensive, right, to maintain them. And if they do start to foul, it becomes problematic. And so I'm just trying to understand all those pieces and how that timing and how that fits.
So one thing that we will be working with city on, you know, Sean been already involved in this park quite a bit, is that the lake is not part of the delayed portion of the regional park. The lake is the first phase. We may not be able to be building around the entire lake, but to really get the edge condition, the trail and so forth, we have to resolve everything with the CCP, get all those permits and get the stage to everything moving forward. So we have to work on your concerns now and get them done as we're moving forward with improvement plans and so forth. So the lake is a phase one, at least for the portion next to us. But if we solve that portion, it's solving everything else as well.
So if the PCCP comes back and says, the plan you have here, we need more setback, we need something different around this lake, does that potentially exist?
Yes and no. And in a sense, if we're working with them, we've been meeting with them. So we had a good meeting. It's just a matter of how they view it. Is either more impact, you pay more fees to be able to impact it, or yes, we understand the vision, we're not going to make it as a hit for additional fees. So it's a matter of just how you approach the project and how much you pay to clean the edge. Because like, again, I mentioned another lake we did where we took out area of wetland and so forth. We put a lake in the ground and it wasn't hit as an impact. It was as feature being developed to create more habitat. So it depends how we develop it and how they work with us. Either it costs more to impact the edges or it costs less. It's basically how they view it and what kind of permit you need to get. But we have to do the vision that the regional park show, which is enhanced lake, enhanced edge condition.
So do we expect that this lake will flow? It'll have inflow and outflow?
Right now it does, but as is, it has inflow, outflow. But obviously, you know, if you go during the spring or there's more runoff or there's rain, you'll see that condition. It's happening already. It's just more outflow because repairs need to happen. Ultimately, yes, will be more coming in, but maybe not outflow all the time. Is that coming in to replenish it, to keep it healthy and aeration and so forth? Because if you want to have a huge outflow during summertime, that's a lot of water. Yeah. So the idea is that to keep it healthy and have enough water to kind of replace evaporation and etc.
And the parking lot storm drain flows will go back into the lake?
No, that's the parking lot's going to drain to the lower end, which is, as you can see, there's a big green blob.
Yeah.
That's kind of part of retention, but we treat on site as well. So by the time we get it here, it's already treated, but then we hold it there and it continues to the open space. It's
didn't want it
lower by
going
about
back into
10
the lake.
feet. Yeah. So we're excited about this lake. So we're going to do our best to make sure it is a good place to visit. So.
Thank you.
Anything else on this side? Else on this side? All right. Now it's time for a public hearing. So I'll open the public hearing and ask Secretary, do we have any cards on this item?
I received no cards. There were no hands raised on Zoom.
And I understand there was a letter that is in
That
the
is-
record.
That is correct, as Romel Pablinis had said, and it will be part of the minutes.
Okay. Is there anyone who wants to speak on this in the room? Okay, this is the owner or developer or the part of the application anyway.
1450 owns the property.
Is the mic on?
We're a partner.
It's, no, next on the podium.
1450 Lincoln owns the property and we're one of the partners in it. We also own the two properties next door. So if we get this one developed the way that we have it envisioned, especially around that lake, because I agree with you about that lake. That is our feature. It's what we're hitting on and we're working pretty hard. I am with Tony and with the city from the standpoint of making sure that that water flow and that lake stays where it should be. We've designed, I think, apartments. The apartments and stuff that we have there, there's a real shortage in California and here too and everywhere for apartments. And we have had nothing but positive response from people saying, when will they be ready? Obviously, we can't get it ready until hopefully you guys approve it. So from the standpoint of the project, when we do all that design out there around the lake, this is taking off from what Tony said, we've got trails outside of the apartments. We also do have fencing for privacy for the apartments too. And it connects even into the building where we've got planned 2 7,500 square foot restaurants. We've got large patios out back, which is a very good feature from the standpoint of people wanting to enjoy themselves. When COVID hit, we talked about even potentially putting removable walls inside where we could end up with a lot more outside space if that happened. Obviously, COVID's getting better, but who knows what's coming next for all of us. We plan on separate from this, and they all three will be separate projects, doing the middle piece, but the same lake design around the front will carry itself. So we're basically, with the land we have, envisioning about half of the lake is what we will be actually constructing back there to do it, on top of what's going on with the regional park. And then when the regional park's in, we're hoping that the whole thing is a circle all the way around it. And then we've got trails that also go out to Oak Tree from those trails up against the lake. And then we've got separate entrances that even can go into the restaurants and stuff from there. We're very proud of what we've done with this project. However, it is new for probably this area, but it is up and coming, the type of projects and stuff that work. We've got the mixed use on the corner, and it is basically the gateway coming into Village One. We've designed it with water feature out front. We've designed it with areas to make it look inviting. And the McBean Parkway going to Sierra College is basically the secondary entrance going out of the city back to Sacramento. So I'm hoping for you guys' approval tonight. We love this project. Our heart and soul has been into it. And I think it'd make us proud and hopefully the city proud that it's here in Lincoln.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to speak? Yes, ma'am, please.
Hi, my name's Denise Moore, and I live on the other side of this project, on the east side. And my biggest question kind of goes back to the developer on, you just
Please address
mentioned-
your questions to the
I'm
commission.
sorry about that. My question is and you just mentioned it, that going out to Sierra College Boulevard is another way of getting out of town. And I'm just curious as to the road mitigation that needs to be done. Bickford Ranch is supposed to be working on the intersection at Highway 193 and Sierra College Boulevard. Once the 900th home permit is pulled, that intersection will be improved. According to their project manager at this point, that's about 10 years out. And so I'm just curious as to all of these individuals who are going to be living in these apartments, what sort of road mitigations that are going to be done that would be impacted that aren't necessarily just within the Lincoln city limits, but outside of it, because that is going, I mean, it's a mess right now, especially because they're doing construction, but it's not going to improve. And so I'm just kind of curious as to what's going to happen with that. I am thankful that apartments are coming in. Most of my staff has to drive an hour to get to work. So I think it's a great project overall in the area, but I'm just kind of curious as to traffic. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. We'll respond after we close the public hearing. Is there another one online? Is that what I?
Yes, there is one online. Caller 408-829-9940. I am allowing you to speak. If you can unmute your, there you go. You should be able to speak.
Yes, good evening, commissioners. I want to congratulate you on hearing a great presentation from this applicant. They did way better than the Borges Group did on September 21st. It's nice to see that we have developers who are working with good design people here in Lincoln. My concern is going to echo Ms. Hutchison's in terms of this whole design for this development being around this lake. That doesn't sound like it's permitted, it's figured out, the source for the water is even known at this point. So to approve this plan that includes this proposed lake when the plans for the lake are not figured out does not sound right to me, and I don't think you should move forward with that. Also, this apartment, small housing situation that's going in, I'm pretty sure that the EIR that was done in 2012, 13, or whenever that was done over a decade ago, did not include high density residence factors. And so I don't see that it's fair to use an EIR and pass this design with an EIR that was done over a decade ago that is really not relevant to a high density housing proposal. Additionally, on the other side of Oak Tree Lane, these apartments are going to have a 24-hour AM, PM, and a 24-hour drive-through car wash. That's about a mile down from a 30-person transient residence on the other direction of Lincoln Highway. So that needs to be advertised to these potential, as these apartment situations are going up. They're going to be across from a 24-hour, potentially AM, PM, and a 24-hour drive-through. And I'm going to echo the previous member, the member of the community who spoke about traffic mitigation. Again, there needs to be major traffic considerations for this kind of building with the addition of the other homes that are going into Oak Tree Lane and the other commercial property that is being proposed on the other side of Oak Tree Lane. Highway 193 is not set up currently for that kind of traffic, and neither is Sierra College. Access to the freeway is going to be a disaster. Getting in and out of these Oak Tree Lane properties and commercial places, 193 is not set up for that. There's no little turn lane. The speed limit is out of control there. People speed on that corridor all the time.
Your time is up, so please wrap it up quickly.
Well, I'd encourage you not to approve this design. It doesn't sound like it's all put together yet, and it hinges all around this pond.
Right, thank you very much. Is there anyone else who wants to speak on this item, either in the room or online? Any hands raised?
There are no more hands raised on Zoom.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing, bring it back to the commission. Would the staff care to respond to the questions about the traffic and the EIR and the zoning?
Sure. So as I said earlier, this project is one project within the Village One specific plan. The Village One specific plan looked at the traffic impacts of building out the entire 5,600 units that were assumed to go there and identified mitigation to address that. Within the specific plan area itself, for example, on McBean Park Drive and SR 193, the specific plan has cross sections that show roadway improvements such as widening, additional lanes and whatnot to accommodate the traffic within the plan area. Outside the plan area, the EIR looked to see where the roadway capacity would be adequate to serve the additional traffic generated by Village One and where it would not, it would include mitigation. And so the I don't have all the mitigation measures in front of me, but essentially, as I said, where was a lack of capacity to meet roadway standards, mitigation was identified if it was available. The project is required to pay into the city's traffic fee and as well as some of the regional traffic improvement fees. So there are plans for widening and improving, for example, Sierra College Boulevard and the intersection at Sierra College and 193. So the project would participate to the extent that it was contributing to that. And Village One as a whole will be
Based on a prorated basis of the
essentially
number of units.
Essentially. With respect to the what the EIR assumed with respect to high density, it did in fact anticipate that, let's see, it was assumed that there would be 576 high density residents within Village One and an additional 509 mixed use residential units, which would typically be high
Yeah,
density.
this is the mixed
And
use,
that is,
correct?
and this is mixed use. So the EIR did include essentially 1,000 high density units. And this project is about 271 units. So it's about a quarter of that. So I think the EIR does adequately address the provision of high density and mixed use units.
Thank you.
Hi, this is SB
Oh.
again. Just to piggyback on that traffic mitigation, Council Commissioner, sorry, is Sparta Tier 1 fees, and they're working on a current update to their 2014 fees. So they're looking at potentially adding a project that would signalize the intersection of Sierra College and 193, as well as Village One is also adding a westbound second left turn pocket as you come in from Sierra College and make a left on 193 towards Lincoln.
Okay.
Thank you.
And just for clarity for the public, can you say what the acronym of SPARTA stands for?
Right, that's South Placer Regional Transportation Agency.
Thank you very much. I
Thank
just
you.
want to make sure people understand some of the terms we throw around. And if, yes,
I just wanted to add one more clarification, and I did find the height limits. So the height limit in the village mixed use zone is 55 feet. And this project, I think the maximum height is about 53.5. So it's under,
right up there and
close, but under.
Thank you. Any further questions from the commission or comments? I just want to say I appreciate pointing out the parking garage. I completely missed that in looking at the plan, and I guess I didn't look carefully enough. I was awestruck by the building. I have to say, when the Village One EIR was one of the first things that I did coming onto the commission, and or not the first, but it was close. And when I saw mixed use and I saw how it was defined, and I was skeptical that this was going to look really trashy. And I have to say, I am really impressed. This is the kind of place that I'd love to live. I'm not going to move from one side of town to the other, but the point is, it's a nice place. I think, having the views of the lake is just going to be incredible. I'm astounded by what I saw in this elevation of this plan. So, and when it comes to the water quality, I wholly agree that it needs to be kept clean. Being that I have a koi pond in my yard, I know how to keep a closed system and keep it healthy. It does take aeration and water circulation, certainly, but it can be done, and it actually consumes less water than a lawn. So that's a benefit of water savings at the same time. I think that's all my comments. Any further? All right, so that brings us to a couple of resolutions. Resolution number 2022-29, approving the proposed addendum to the certified 2012 Village One specific plan environmental impact report certifying that the proposed waterfront project will not result in any new significant information of substantial importance, new impacts, new mitigation measures, new or revised alternatives, or an increase to the severity of the previously identified impacts that would require major revisions to the Village One Specific Plan EIR, and therefore pursuant to state CEQA guidelines, section 15162, the preparation of an additional supplemental and subsequent EIR is not required. Is
Move
there-
adoption.
Second.
Okay, we got a tie between Commissioner
Doesn't
Cross.
matter.
We'll give it to Commissioner Cross. And the second was Commissioner Hutchinson, sorry.
Commissioner Cross,
Yes.
Commissioner Hutchison,
Yes.
Commissioner Gilbert,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner McKinney,
Yes.
Vice Chair Manning, and Chair Lyons.
Yes. Commissioner Manning's voice was
Yes.
off point. Thank you. Second resolution, adopt resolution number 2022-30, thereby approving of a design review, specific development plan for the proposed waterfront project. Is there a motion?
Move adoption.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gilbert,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Cross,
Yes.
Commissioner Hutchinson,
Yes.
Commissioner McKinney,
Yes.
Vice Chair Manning,
Yes.
and Chair Lyons.
Yes. Thank you very much. Congratulations. I look forward to seeing the project. Thank you. All right, that brings us to item number 9, general business. We do not have any general business tonight. Item 10 is commissioner comments. Do any of my colleagues have any comments?
Yes.
Commissioner Cross.
Yes, I'd like to address Schreiber Park, which is at approximately 2490 3rd Street. It's the park that's across the street from not only my house, but the new cemetery there right off of 3rd Street. There are 2 big holes in the brick wall where 8 to 10 bricks are missing, and there are holes in the wall and it is yet to be repaired. I went back and checked my notes. The holes have been there more than 5 years. And I think it's time that we would patch those holes, would fix it up. If you don't know where to get the brick or how to fix it, I know where the brick was originally purchased. I know where it came from. I used to work for the company. It's H.C. Muddock's company in Sacramento made the bricks. So I think 5 years is long enough to get 2 holes in a block wall fixed. I'd like to see that repaired. I have no idea why it hasn't been dealt with. It's embarrassing.
We can pass that word along to Public Works.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Anything else? Nothing on this side, anything on this side?
Yeah, I'm in a similar comment. The fire department at Joyner and First, bunch of dead trees. It looks like those pine trees are dying. And so someone, I hope is looking at that.
We will similarly
Thank you.
pass it along to Public
Appreciate
Works.
it.
Well, what the heck then?
I'll let it. Were you just joking or did you want to say?
I got
something?
plenty, but I'll let it go.
Okay. And I think we don't have
And
to.
for the record, you all can feel free to go to the city's website and contact the Public Works Department if you have such a maintenance request, and they will put it in the queue and get back to you and advise as to whether it is in fact city property that is subject to our repair. Otherwise, it'll be referred to code enforcement for action.
Thank you. I appreciate you calling that out because I think it's good for the public to know how they can actually get things done. And that's very helpful. Thank you. All right, I think that wraps up commissioner comments. Item 11, informational items from staff. Does the staff have any informational items?
I don't have any informational items other than just recognizing our planning manager, Mel, for bringing these items forward. It was a Herculean effort, so
Yeah, there's a lot of
thanks and
stuff.
recognition to that.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right, that brings us to item 12, adjournment. We are now adjourned.